Welcome back to Hear Me Out Audiology. Today we have a special guest that I'm going to introduce today, and then we'll get into some questions with her. So today I have the pleasure of talking with Dr. Saunja Burt, who is a Florida-based audiologist who's currently working as an account manager for a manufacturing company. And she is a pioneer in the profession and continues to give back to generations of audiologists that come after her. So Dr. Burt is the first Black audiologist to obtain the AUD degree in the Midwest, and she graduated from Central Michigan University in 2001. She has over 20 years of experience in audiology, and she has served on various committees and boards of the American Academy of Audiology. Dr. Burt has shown her commitment to growing the field of audiology and ensuring that representation remains a top priority. Welcome, Dr. Burt.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jackie.
It's a little surreal to still hear that, but today we're talking a little bit more about like mentoring because obviously I stalked you and found you on LinkedIn, and from there I feel like inseparable from you at this point. I just feel like I just text you and call you and you're probably like too much. But so
I love it.
so the first question to just start out, tell us how you became interested in the field of audiology and how you started your journey.
Well, actually, my mother was a nurse, so I knew I wanted to do something in the medical profession. Didn't know what. I went to various like summer camps and things like that, but it wasn't until my younger sister had chronic ear infections. So she would have to see the speech language pathologist. Honestly, it probably was like twice a week. And I happened to go to one of those visits. I probably was in the sixth or seventh grade. And I remember they mentioned that they wanted to test her hearing. And so we went and I saw this lady come out the sound booth with like a suit. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is all this stuff, this equipment? And one thing led to another. She saw that I was interested and she said, do you want to test your little sister's hearing? And I was like, yes. So she let me, she said, if it's okay with your mom, I'll let you do it. So, I went to the back on the testing side with her. And ever since then, I was hooked. I happened to attend Hampton University, and they had a communication sciences and disorders program. It was actually a pioneering program. And because of that, and my professors, Dr. Screen, he since passed away, was definitely a pioneer in the field. And when you talk about giving back, I mean, that was his thing. You have to give back. If you were blessed to, receive a great education, to be around great people, and that's your responsibility. So I do take that serious.
Yeah, and I will say that I appreciate it because when I started my program, I didn't even know there were such things as Black audiologists. So meeting you, or well, stalking you, I'm gonna just fully admit
I'll
it.
take
I
it.
definitely stalked you, but it was definitely something that I needed, and hopefully the next generations to come will be able to feel the same way.
I'll be
Uh,
honest, I wish I had someone to stalk, and I didn't. I was
yeah.
stalking people, but maybe not. It wasn't a lot of audiologists at conferences that looked like me. As you know, we're still at that point even today. But I always tell you this: you always say you stalked me. I'm glad you did because I admire your generation, and I tell you that all the time. You guys are just so creative. You think outside the box, and you say I mentor you, but I do learn a lot from you as well. So
Oh, well, thanks. That's a pretty common thing that I feel like audiologists, we find the field because someone we know had
mhm.
to come in contact with an audiologist. And so after graduating from Hampton, you went on to Central Michigan University and you learned at your graduation, if I'm not mistaken, that you were the first Black audiologist to graduate with the AUD degree.
Mhm.
So how did that feel in that moment, and what did it mean to like your family?
I'll be honest, in that moment when they said it, I didn't feel anything. I just was happy I was graduating. When you get to that point, I was like, "Oh, I made it." So I'll be honest, I didn't feel anything, just like relief, like, "Ooh." It wasn't until after the graduation, and you're looking for your family. And as I'm walking through the crowd, I saw older generations like come up to me. It's like, "Oh my gosh, congratulations. I'm so proud of you." And then I realized, oh, that I did just do that. And even
Yeah.
some of the undergraduates, because our graduation was undergrad, master's, and the doctoral level, they were like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know that about you. I didn't know." So then that's when I realized, ooh, in life, you really do things not necessarily for you.
Mm,
Is You don't know who else you're influencing. And I think that's when it hit me, like, oh my goodness. And then my grandfather and grandmother were present. Actually, both
mm.
my grandmothers and my grandfather, and they were so proud. Um, you know, my grandfather kept saying, "Okay," my maiden name is Terrell. He's like, "All right, Dr. Terrell, we got a doctor. All right, Dr. Terrell." He just kept saying it. He was so proud. So um, I think that's when it hit me, like, oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I could imagine that being a pretty awesome feeling. Because I know me being the first Black doctor in my family ever, that was like a big thing. And then I know that, when my grandparents saw that, I could see like the happiness on their face, knowing that
Mhm.
like they can brag to their friends now their granddaughter is a doctor. And so I think that
Definitely.
the same kind of feeling is there for
It
sure.
is. I'm laughing because my grandfather, I fit him with hearing aids.
Mm.
But he had his hearing tested, and I guess he went to the doctor's office, and they were trying to fit him. He was like, "Nope, I have to send this to my granddaughter." And he bragged that this lady called me. So I just had to talk to you, your grandfather, and he lived in a different state. So of course, if I lived in the same state, I would fit him, but we didn't. So I had to review everything, okay it, and he was okay with that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling, and then also just to know that, there's such a small percentage of Black audiologists, but just Black doctors in general. Like, I
mhm,
know that our grandparents, they're so excited because it's something that, is a wild dream to them, or was a wild dream to them. So,
exactly.
yeah, it's a good feeling. When I think about it, I still get a little bit of a chill for it. So, just moving into just some things as far as you being, a mentor to me and to other students as well. What are some valuable lessons or insights that you have gained throughout your time as an audiologist that you like to share with those that are mentees to you or just other colleagues around you?
I think what you did first was you found people you trust. I think just trusting yourself is probably one of the biggest things. I mean, it's one thing to be questioned because you're a new audiologist, but we have other barriers that you might have to battle. Imposter syndrome, as we always like to say.
Hmm.
Um, but I would say one of the things I wish I would have taken seriously, and I think you and I had this conversation before, is just like your finances. Even though when you finish school, you're overwhelmed with everything, I would say that's still something you can do little by little. There's programs because before you know it, you'll be thinking, "Oh gosh, I can retire in 10 years or 15 years because it goes fast." So even if
Hmm.
you put a little away, that's the one thing I'm stressing is just getting that in order. And once you have a system in place, it's easy. Um, watch how you behave.
Hmm.
This profession is so small and word of mouth spreads. So if you're not doing your best, believe me, the next person is going to say, "No, I wouldn't hire her," or
Hmm.
"No, do not pick her for a committee." And the third thing is it's nice to have a mentor, but you also need a sponsor, somebody that's going to say, take you with them. I wrote some of my first and second articles off of someone who was really a dear professor, but ended up being a mentor and now is like a great friend. And she's known in the profession. She's written millions of articles on counseling. She travels throughout the world, but she was like, you know what, let's do one together. And I appreciated that. It was something to learn from someone else who's been there and they've done it. So if I had to say, those would be the three things: your finances, watch how you treat people, and find not just a mentor, but somebody who will push you further. So a sponsor, and they'll bring you along with them.
Yeah, I can agree with all of those. Finances has been a struggle
Mhm.
for me. Just getting out of school and just trying to just trying to figure everything out. Now, it doesn't help that everything in this economy is
Oh,
10 times more expensive than when I started school, but we'll get there. We will figure all of that out. But I think that is one thing that I'm gonna have to work on, is trying to get that all in order, because obviously I'm not trying to work for the rest of my life.
mhm.
So,
And it's
um,
scary, right? Because you're like,
yeah.
wait, wait. But even if it's just a little bit. And Jackie,
Hmm.
you are so talented. It's, you know, I won't go on about you, but you know how I feel. You're so talented. So
Yes, I'm trying to get my talents to work for me. So,
mhm.
and one day it will. One day they will for sure. And so we'll
Yeah.
get there. But yeah, that is a big thing. And then also, like you said, having someone that sponsors you, like, to bring you along,
Mhm.
that's a big one, because I feel like most things you get because you have a connection to someone else that's already been there, or they have a connection. And so I would
Absolutely.
I definitely echo to
Mhm.
those, definitely good, valuable insights.
Mhm.
Now, are there any specific challenges or hurdles that you commonly see in audiology or with audiology students that you find you've helped them through, or just in general?
Mhm. Well, we just kind of talked about one is trying to figure it out after graduation. Um, but what I do notice about a lot of the students coming out, that anxiety of what next, where am I going to end up, and just letting them know that it's okay. You went to school, you are a doctor of audiology, an audiologist. You will find something, and it's okay if you create your something. So that's what I see the most. Students just being unsure of themselves, or the student finding a position and then feel like they have to stay, even though it's not a good fit. And
Mm-hmm.
I am a firm believer that it's okay. If it's not working, it's just best to try to figure out what works for yourself, because your path is not going to be the same as everyone else's.
Yeah, that's very true. And I will say that I'm starting to come to that realization in some areas just of post grad life, and
Mhm.
knowing that if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Um,
Don't try to
yeah,
force it. It's just
yeah,
not, what's for you is for you. And sometimes it's not the same as someone else's. And it's,
hmm
you know, okay, you tried it. Oops. Okay. Life is about experiences, not
hmm
just going along to go along.
yeah. And I will also think of, I also think of another one being a hurdle that I had to overcome, and I know you were probably sick of me texting you every time that praxis score came back,
Oh,
and it wasn't what I wanted. So, um, just tell us a little bit of how you walked me through not getting ready to hang up every bit of audiology
you
when
know,
that.
you just have to reset. You have to reset. And honestly, at that time, it was just I had to listen to you.
Mm,
I couldn't tell you what to do because at that time I could have told you no, stick with it. I had to let you go through it. We had our 24-hour rule. We're like 48 hours, but it's okay. So I felt so bad though. Honestly, at the moment, I didn't know what to do but to listen. And then I was like, okay, she's calm. We're going to talk. You're not giving up. We'll find a way around it. It has to be a way around it. Um, Even if, we were looking, remember we started looking at different rules and what were some options until you passed. And so, but thank goodness we didn't have to implement any of those. It worked.
no, thank God we didn't have to implement anything else.
Good,
So
good.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I think for me, I think that was a big thing, was to have somebody in the field that knew what the praxis was. They understood how messed up that test is and could just listen to me say that I was giving it all up 6 times. So, you know,
I was like, nope, nope, not yet. Not
yeah,
for tests. If you're gonna quit, it's not gonna be for tests.
yeah. So I would say that that was a personal hurdle that I felt that you definitely got me through because I was ready to give it all up, all of it. So, as an experienced audiologist, what advice would you offer to aspiring audiologists or like undergraduate students who are maybe thinking speech pathology or audiology? What would you give them as advice is to choose between the two, I guess?
I think that's such a personal decision. For me, most of us start our undergrad career in communication disorder, so I had an opportunity to try both, and I knew right away that I'm an audiologist.
Hmm.
I just prefer that. I remember one of my professors, we had to test preschool children in the Hampton Roads area. And I'll never forget, she was like, Sonia, we were doing like our articulation test. She was like, Sonia, just pretend that you like it. You just have another hour. And she's like, I promise you, we'll get you some more hearing screenings. I was like, okay. And I didn't realize, I was just like, oh my goodness. But, I have friends who that's their thing. They didn't like audiology. So we kind of helped each other through those things. So that I don't know if it's a choice. That's a personal one. You know.
I can agree that it is definitely personal because you either like it or you don't. I've
Mhm.
kind of come to find that out very quickly. And coming from, the CSD or communication science disorder background, I knew immediately that speech pathology was not for me.
Mhm.
Didn't
Mhm.
take me more than one class to know that was not the one for me.
Right.
So I can agree that it is definitely a personal decision. Um, do you have any advice for those that are in their undergraduate, knowing that they're going into audiology, like what to expect or what they should do to try to get connected with someone or maybe like shadowing? What would you put as
Definitely
advice?
shadow if you can in undergrad. But I would say join the student organizations because there's valuable information in that. It's nice connections, and you'll
Mhm,
get to meet people who are already maybe further along in a journey than you are or at the same point.
mhm.
But I would definitely suggest getting involved early, and that's at every level. I really do, um, because it does help you. It helps you through your professional life. You meet people. Maybe you were struggling with something, or maybe you would like to move somewhere, and you'll meet someone who knows someone that knows someone. Um, but I do find that that's helpful. When I think about my career, that was one of the things at the time Central Michigan had us do. We attended conferences um, for that very reason. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can agree. I like that as well. I think trying to get a like core group of people that you know that if you have questions you can reach out to, or even just if they're in the same, boat as you trying to get into grad school or
Mhm.
trying to go through that process, you have someone that you can share that experience with going through the process because it's definitely not easy, with
At
interviews
all.
and all of that. So I agree with you on that for sure. Question that we can talk about is any memorable experiences that you have as an audiologist, throughout your career or even where you are now, in your work.
Memorable,
Mhm.
positive or negative, because it could be both. No,
Both. No.
I'll keep it positive. um, I just try to enjoy where I'm at. eh, Um, in whatever setting. Currently, as you mentioned, I am an account manager, and I enjoy that right now in my life. I feel that I worked in the school system when I first graduated. I worked at the VA for many years, over 15. I was a supervisor. I feel like my current position is like it brings all that together. I have to have some management skills, people skills, but I enjoy it because every day is not the same. I can I just learned I'm just being stretched. I also have my
Mm,
MBA, so I'm able to use that. Um, Marketing. So where I'm at right now, I am excited. It's a stretch for me. So, and I still get my fix in the clinic if I wanted to go
mhm,
and just say, "Hey, you need some help today?" And some people do. They take me up. So that's a good point. Right now, I'm in a good space and a good experience. Um, I think the one thing that people have to realize is burnout.
mm,
I didn't because life was life and I was trying to stay afloat. A lot happened in a short while, personally, um, and just professionally for me. So that was you kind of see who's there for you and who's not. And the only thing I can always tell people is be true to yourself and always be you, even when other people's energy is low or they're
mhm.
negative. You just keep just being you. That's the only thing you can do. So that's what got me through, I'll be honest. So,
Good.
mhm.
Now, just, flipping script a little bit. Can you think of any just like things that you really liked or enjoyed when you did work in the clinic or at the VA? Like, can you think of any things that, because you worked in a lot of different settings, and
Yeah.
so some people may find that they think they want to work at the VA or they might want to go into educational audiology. Can you think of any like tips or things that you remember from those days?
Yeah, for me, honestly, it's always about the people, the patients. It really is. I mean, I did have great coworkers in both places, but it was always knowing that you really are changing someone's life.
Hmm.
I remember I was about to leave the school system, and the social worker was like, "Listen, I really need someone to test this child's hearing." I think he was in like this. He was 6 or 7, still in like pre-K or kindergarten. It was ridiculous. And the mom, they had immigrated here, and the mom had 5 kids, and she kept
Hmm.
saying that something's wrong. Like I have to get in his face and talk to him. He's not hearing me. Um, and again, like I said, the English wasn't her first language. She didn't speak English. We had a translator. And I was like, I felt her pain, like no one's listening to me. So I was like, okay. And I went to say something to the little boy. And as soon as he started talking, I was like, he has a hearing loss.
Hmm.
Tested his hearing and I confirmed the mom's suspicion. And I remember that mom, and it's bringing me to tears now, cried and was so happy because she knew that something was wrong and somebody finally, confirmed to her that, yes, my child has a hearing loss. So we were able, that was the last person I tested before I left the school system.
Hmm.
What he did, he was able to get help, hearing aids, and get the help he needed. So that was one in the school system. The VA was always a pleasure when I was in patient care. I was a supervisor for a long time as well. So I dealt with management, but I also always wanted to see patients.
Hmm.
They're funny. It was, that I think we laughed at some of the it was an outpatient clinic, so you can
Hmm.
just park your car and come in. And we used to have walk-in clinic, and I swear I used to have my favorites that come in once a week. And I think it was just our conversation. I was like, "Now you know, there's nothing wrong, but come on, let me clean up." And they would laugh. So that was fun. It was definitely busy. It was busy, but it still was enjoyable. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the VA and veterans that come in. I have some that come in to where I'm at now, and they're funny. Like they'll have you laughing. They will have you.
Story.
You could have the most craziest day, and then you come in with them, and they have you laughing all day. So
All day. And then you could tell them the truth and they just start laughing like, "Oh, you caught me," you know? Yeah. So yeah, that was good. I do miss that, but yeah, they were funny.
which setting would you say you prefer, or not prefer, but that you enjoyed more? Would you say that you really liked one over the other?
I don't. I feel like they all happen at that point in time in my life. I always say you might start somewhere because that's what you enjoy, but then
Mm-hmm.
you'll know when it's time to transition to something else. But that's the beauty of what we do. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to stay anywhere for a long time. And I would tell you, my father worked at General Motors for over 40 years, a car plant. And he used to make us work, well, not make, but they would hire students in the summer. He'd be like, hey, and I used to be like, oh my goodness, how's he doing this year after year? Um, but he'll always tell you, he's like, well, that's why I wanted more for you, my sisters and I. And so
Mm-hmm.
just to have those opportunities to do something and try something, you don't have to be put in a box. So, but I always say, you'll know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that. I swore up and down that I was just gonna see kids for the rest of my life and be in like play mode for the rest of my life. And I got a
Mhm.
taste back into adult world and I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
So I
Right. That's
don't want to leave. So yeah.
you don't want to get back on your knees and with the
Mm-mm.
toys and yeah,
Every once in a while, like I can still pull it out of me pretty good, but yeah, I don't know how I did it,
yeah,
but it was good for the time that it was there, but
right,
I that was it's a stark difference between how exhausted I was then to how exhausted I am now. It's a different type of exhaustion
right.
with the kids. But they're still cute. I still love them. But
Oh, exactly.
man.
But I have a question for you because you asked me about what is a good um, relationship between a mentee and a mentor. So I would say, what do you think? Because I think that that's helpful for those looking for a mentor. Like, what do you think are some good characteristics things?
Yeah, so for me, I've had several mentors, and I feel like I gravitated towards the ones that were like, "Oh, just call me, so and so. Don't call me, don't call me Dr. Burt,
Mm,
you tell me don't call you Dr. Burt." But, it's so ingrained in my head that that's just what I want to do. But I felt like I gravitated towards those mentors that were very personable for me and not like I felt like I was talking to my professors.
right.
And so for me, I was looking for someone who could be a mentor, be someone that didn't get weirded out if I texted them at 9 o'clock at night, like this test is about to stress me out. Like,
Mhm.
I was looking for someone that was open and okay with that. And obviously everybody's not going to be okay with that. But I think for me and my personality, I had to find someone that was okay with that.
Right.
So I think now, just like learning from you how you were with me, when I have other people that, want to come to me, so like undergraduate students that reach out to me, I try to make sure I'm the one that like just text me, just call me Jackie. Don't even attempt my last name. Like we're not even like
Right.
don't even worry about it. Like it's fine. So I think that was big for me when it came to other students, and then now in the position to be able to start having students as like third years and coming in to get their clinical hours under me. I feel like I would be a better um, clinical supervisor as someone who can still relate to them rather than being like a professor to them. So
That's a good point because
mhm.
I always felt I love number one supervising students, especially when I was in the clinic, is that if students are afraid to ask questions or to make a mistake, they're going to hide it.
Mhm.
Um, and if you left me under my watch, when you're doing your rotation under me, and someone's like, "Oh, who trained this person?" I felt that was a reflection of me. So I
Mhm.
always would sit down after the day or even before the day. This is our schedule. Any questions? And I would watch, and then I would say, "Hey, come talk to me at the end of the day. What are three things you learned, and what are three things you can, what can you do different, and what did you do well?" And so that way we can reflect on it. But that wasn't everyone's approach. I don't feel
Mhm.
like you have to be mean to teach someone. I'd rather
Mhm.
spend 5 hours on one thing that you get it right because once you get it, you got it, versus like waiting for you to make a mistake and chastise you.
Mhm.
And so I take that. I mean, clearly you reached out, you needed help. Like, I know how I wish I had someone to talk to. And I did, sometimes I didn't, or if I did, they didn't really understand.
Mhm.
So I'm glad to hear, I mean, that you are reaching back. That's what it's about. I told you it started probably from home. Honestly, we always gave back, but
Yeah.
really underground, when you talk about professionally, that was instilled very early on. Very
Yeah.
early.
I mean, I appreciated those that lend a hand to me, so I feel like I'm obligated to do it for the next generation that's coming up, because one, I am very determined to make sure that this field becomes more and more diverse by any means necessary. And so if I am the person that just has to put my face out there to say, you can call me, text me, whatever you need to do,
Hmm.
um, so that they feel like, okay, they can do this too, then I'll do it.
Yeah,
So,
because they see you. It's like, oh, I can do that. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, no, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you.
Well, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, so we've been chatting for 30 minutes, and I try to keep this in a palatable time frame so people aren't, feeling like they're listening to this for hours and hours on end.
You're
But
right.
obviously we could talk for hours and it would
We
be
do
no
talk
end. So
because it's
uh
easy, right? It should be easy.
yeah, it should be. Yeah. And I think that I hope that when people watch this, they see the dynamic, that it was never like you were like this power dynamic over me. It was like I could reach out to you and be like, I'm done with audiology because this praxis had my last nerve. And you would be like, it's okay, take some time, we'll talk tomorrow. And I would just go and, boohoo in my room. And then the next day I'd be like, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm not actually going to give it up, but I'm going
Yeah,
to have to figure out how to pass it this next time. So,
yeah.
yeah.
That's life. You'll be able to help someone else.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. But it was so great to talk to you, and I am so looking forward for everyone else to get to know you more. And I know that people are picking up, because I'm starting to see, they're like, yeah, she's the first Black audiologist. Yes, don't forget it. Please remember, know who she is, because that was the way that I found you. Honestly, that is the way that I found you online, and I stalked you on LinkedIn, and I will stick to that story for the rest of my life. So,
It's a pleasure.
all right. Well, thank you so much for taking your time, your evening, to come and chat. And I just can't wait to talk more. I'll probably text you after. So, but all right.
All
Well,
right.
that
Later.
that is all, folks. Hear me out, because we got a lot to talk about.